Ba-ba-ba-ba. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Lovely Night for It. Yes, it didn't take me 4 months to upload another video, although it could have if I really wanted it to. It's kind of hard getting into this as a routine, but I'm still gonna go for it. And during my time at work and time throughout my day, and pretty much every second I'm awake, being zoned out, not thinking about what's in front of me, I started thinking about something that I thought I would just kind of lay out on mic because why not? I need something to record. Jesus, I'm dying here. So, have you ever been or did you know anybody who was the I have to help everybody guy? Like you had to butt in. Every friend of a friend that you saw, you had to try to give advice and direct them even though you had no place doing it. It started for me in middle school where I definitely had no place doing it because I would try to help my friends. Now I think about it, I really don't know where it came from originally, but my earliest memory of it is trying to help friends and random people with their problems, day to day relationships, which is funny because that's around when the first inklings of my own troubles with girls started sprouting. I didn't really have any yet. I had very minor crushes because again, this is middle school. This is seventh, eighth grade. It doesn't, it's not fully in your head yet. But my friends would be, well, back then, a bunch of potheads and nerds and generally weird people. And I would always try to sound wiser than I was. And apparently fake it till you make it really works because they would come to me for a lot of things. And eventually I had strangers coming to me for it. If some of you remember the dawn of Facebook and when people really first started messaging each other on there, I remember being home sometimes and getting messages from people I didn't know, and they would just ask me a question, and I knew they were from my classes or from my school, and I guess they were friends with some of my close friends. And I remember one, I'm not going to say their name, who tried asking me about this girl that he had a thing for, and he didn't know how to go about it. And I answered him to the best of my ability, but it's so weird because I was talking out of my ass totally. I didn't know anything about it. As you've yet to hear on a lot of these stories that I've yet to tell you, I I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what to do even when I desperately needed to. So I wonder why I felt qualified or I even bothered giving people answers to their questions when I couldn't answer them for myself. And the more I think about that, the more I think that there's something inert in us. There's something selfish deep down that wants to feel needed or wants to feel like you are necessary to the process of daily life for people around you. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just some narcissist. I don't know. But I think there's a trace of that in everybody to a degree. You want to you want to be involved. Either you think you can handle their situation better if it were happening to you, or you might genuinely care about the outcome of their life. I think it could vary person to person. But I wonder what it is inside of us that makes us that way. Like why is it something from childhood? I can't think of anything personally that would cause me to be like that. It was just sort of a natural thing that came out of nowhere. And for the few people who act on that impulse to be gives advice to everybody guy, why? Why is it you? Because if everybody has a little bit of that in them, why do some people go the extra mile of butting in and trying to have a positive effect, even though sometimes you end up with a negative effect? Which brings me to my next idea of how that continued into my relationship life, friendships, and just normal relationships. I had this real thing that caused a lot of trouble, which some of you have heard on the couple podcasts that I've released about my relationship, so mainly my first one. The other ones are, oof, I'll get to those someday. I don't want to blow my load all at once. But I had this thing in me where I had to, and I mean had to, help every girlfriend that I really cared about. Because I could not sleep, I could not think, I could not do anything if I knew somebody was going through even a minor bit of trouble that they probably didn't make a big deal about. It was just annoying for the day, but for me, I couldn't. My head would spin. I had to answer. I had to solve problems. And my first relationship, which I have chronicled on here. I mean, I'm not gonna reiterate old things that I've said already. But you would think that after everything that happened, which, by the way, if you don't know what happened, go back and listen to that series of videos. It's all in the Lovely Night Forward playlist. Anyway, you would think after all of those things that happened, I would have eventually learned to not try and help people so intensely when they don't want it. But something I learned only recently, like after my last so far relationship a couple years ago, is that sometimes people don't want to be helped. They will complain about something. They will cry about something, but they don't actually, when they come to you crying about it, they don't want you to solve it for them. They just want somebody to vent to. And I could never tell that difference until maybe 6 months to a year ago, like very recently in my life, that I discovered that when people come to you with a problem, that doesn't mean they want an answer. Sometimes they don't know how to answer it. Sometimes they just don't want to deal with it. They just need to yap to somebody. I don't know why I didn't learn that sooner. I mean, as far as my second relationship, I mean, a lot of that's something I'll someday go into. Again, I'm going to chronicle all of these, never giving any info or anything like that on who they are, but there's a lot of anxiety stuff. And I remember wanting to help, but I never really got the chance to be butt in and talk out of turn guy, because she was very, I don't know, she really had to deal with it on her own and didn't let a lot of people into that side. So I guess I don't have too many examples from there, even though it was present. There was always something underlying there. But by that point, I was 18 already, and, life's crazy at 18 anyway. And my third girlfriend, not so much. That was more of a friendship. But yeah, that last girlfriend that I brought up earlier, it sucks when you can't recognize those signs that they don't want your help, especially when you care so disgustingly much that you actually sabotage yourself, where things would have been better if you had even ignored them. If you didn't answer their text, at least that would blow over. But when you do something where you're like, oh, you try doing this, or oh, you know what you should do, and they don't want to hear it. Shut up. Just shut up past me. Maybe that's what the point of me wanting to record this is. I wish I could tell past me to just shut up and sit down. You don't know anything. But there's the most recent example of this, right before I really learned, was actually when my effort was appreciated. For, I guess not for once, but really the only time I can think of it. I had an old friend that I hadn't talked to by choice, actually. It was a lot of complicated stuff, in just about a year. Maybe it was a few days off from a year since I decided to speak to her. And one night, I'm just going about my business, and I get this text that I won't go into detail. I wouldn't want them to be found out or who they are. But they were going through something that pretty much I was the only other person they knew of that had gone through it. And they were super frightened and scared and didn't know what to do. So she texted me. This had to be 8 at night on a work night. I get up at like 4:30 for work, so it wasn't too far from me showering and going to bed. I called her, and at this point, I'm stuttering, of the opinion that I did not like her. I wasn't planning on ever speaking to her again. If we saw each other in our common friend circles, fine. I was capable of being civil with her, acting like nothing was going on. But we just grew apart to the point where like not speaking was the best option. And I didn't have a positive opinion on her. Or even that's when I thought of her at all. Really, life had moved on. And the second I got that text, all the feelings toward this girl, everything that she meant, the value from years ago, everything came flooding back. And I called her up and I'm like, oh my God, this and that, are you okay? And I was on the phone with her, texting or calling or whatever, until maybe 1 in the morning. And I had work in a few hours and I did not care. It didn't faze me. I couldn't dream of hanging up or just ignoring it, not reading a text and going to sleep, because it was right in that instant all of my capability of caring rushed back. And why? Why would that happen? I had no plans on ever speaking to her again right before that. And as soon as that happens, I'm back to being this little in love teen again. Is there like, I don't know. Can you tell I don't use a script for this anymore? Because I really just wanted to lay out my thoughts in a streamline as I think them. Maybe there's something else in us, this overwhelming need to help people that we care about. Maybe it's not selfish, like I was saying before. I don't know. Another thought is, what if this is a way of avoiding our own problems? Like where I was saying before that I had girl trouble, but I was helping other people with girl trouble. Maybe it makes us feel like we have control over what we don't really have control over. What if it's a coping mechanism? You would think it's actually a selfless thing to help somebody, but what if you're doing it for this deep down selfish reason? Is it still good to do? As far as I know, none of my advice hurt anybody. I'm trying to think of it now, and the people who acted on what I said didn't complain. I don't know. That was back during the middle school days, though, so maybe it didn't matter so much. I don't know. Hey, I thought, you know what? This is an interesting topic that I would lay out for people to think about yourself. Because, I don't know, maybe you're about to do stuff like this. Maybe you didn't realize until you heard me put it into words that you're the has to help everybody guy. And you can think twice or think twice as much when you do it. Or think twice about doing it, I should have said. I'm not very good at speaking. My words suck. Anyways, I'm just going to leave you with that. It's kind of a short, just think about it kind of thing that I conjured up. If you have any thoughts on it, or you think I'm a moron, or I could have done something differently in anything that I said, or you have any questions, or basically anything, wow, I'm just going to go on and list a million reasons why, you can comment below. But go ahead and comment below. Ask me. You could ask me on all my Twitters, all my things, all my social medias you can find in my description. And yeah, just a little bit of thoughts being thrown out there. So I still have no way to end these things. So bye.